HRV, or heart rate variability. What it is, how it works, and why bigger doesn't necessarily mean better. My name is Paolo, and today I will tell you and explain you what HRV is and how you can make that data work for you. First of all, understanding HRV. The heart rate variability is a measurement of the time between the heartbeats. What does it mean exactly? If you have a heartbeat of 60 beats per minute, automatically we would assume one beat every second, but that's exactly where the HRV comes in. It's not one beat for a second. Sometimes it's 0.8, sometimes it's 1.2 seconds, sometimes it's 1, sometimes it's 0.7, sometimes 1.3, and the average gets you to 60 beats per minute. Now, if we can measure how the heart is treating this variability, we can actually measure the activity of the nervous system. If we put somebody into a really high workload, close to the maximum, the variability of these beats of the heart, like I beat here, beat there, should disappear. This is actually one of the things that are measured on the ECG when you have all the diodes on you and you go to the either treadmill test or bike test until failure. They are looking at one of the parameters. They are looking at whether there is the variability still there, which would be a problem, or the variability disappears. So you can imagine it as the higher the RPMs of your heart, the more regular the heart needs to go. Yeah? And the more chilled the heart is when we are resting, it only beats, it only goes, it only pumps when it really needs to. So the variability of these heartbeats are becoming more irregular. Or the variability is high because the beats are not that regular. It's all measured in milliseconds, okay? So this is very important, that just saying that the irregularity of the gaps between the heartbeats, it's not a bad thing. You actually should have it pretty high when, in certain ranges of course, when you are resting. Now, the heart rate variability, very individual from person to person. Your gender, your age, your history, how well trained you are, how stressed you are, all the long-term and also short-term factors will impact the HRV data. The way how most of these tracking devices, whether you have Whoop, Apple Watch, Garmin Watch, Aura Ring, or any of these measurement tools, how they are using it in a certain ranges and algorithms set for the device. Me personally, I tried 4 or 5 of these devices, and most of them also simultaneously. What was actually happening was that the absolute value was different from device to device. But when I looked at the chart of development from day to day, Monday a little bit low, Tuesday higher, then a little bit low, then shoot up again, those charts were pretty much identical. I tested Aura Ring while I had Whoop. I tested Whoop while I had Apple Watch, Aura Ring while I had Apple Watch, all possible combinations, and the result was always the same. The device was showing different number as an absolute number, let's say HRV 50 on one device and HRV 80 on the other device. But if there was a drop for the following day, it was also adequate drop on the data on both. So at the end, the charts became pretty much exactly the same. So one stupid thing to do is actually looking at the value and comparing it to others people, others people values because first of all, HRV is individual, as I said, to many biological and environmental factors. But at the same time, you can just have it measured on a different device and it will be completely different. So for some people, measured on device A, having 80 might be low, and for somebody having 50 on a different device might be high. Yeah? So really don't compare your data to anybody's else data or even within your devices, and only look at the chart. Now, if we have it set very well, what we will see? We will see by this data impact of the training or our life or whatever it is. Usually athletes are using it a lot more, so that's why I'm referring to training. You'll see the impact on your nervous system. So if you have a hard workout, most likely following morning, because it usually most of the devices are measuring it at night. Through the day, very few. Even though there are some that I think you can do even a measurement on the request for you lie down for 10-15 minutes and it will give you the actual HRV. Anyway, you get low HRV following really hard training day. That's actually good. That means you had a good impact, and it means that your system is recovering. If you have a rest day, or you have an easier session, or you have a session that is lesser load on the nervous system, for example, some easy nose-only breathing cardio compared to heavy lifting, that's way easier load on the nervous system, your HRV following morning will be most likely way higher. And this way, you can regulate how much and how well you load your system. For people who are claiming and saying that, oh, I just go by feel and this and that, by all means, you do you. I'll just tell you one story that when I was studying, one of my professors, he was involved in developing one of these machines, and they had a lot of data. That was actually the time when I first learned about HRV and what it actually is, how to use it. When they were measuring athletes, and they had a lot of samples because they were developing the machines, and a lot of athletes and teams and even youth, they wanted to work with them for that reason. So they had a great big samples of data. If they let the athletes decide whether they want to train light, medium, or hard based on how they felt, that was in one group, and the other group was doing all the training load and intensity determined by coach who saw their HRV data. The group with coach overlooking the HRV data had way better improvements in strength, explosiveness, overall recovery on a long term. So saying, I'll wing it by how I feel, great, you can, but if you are more serious about training and more, or you just want to have fun and you want to really tweak it properly for your best performance, the HRV is amazing. It's a golden grail of data you can follow and you can actually look at for next training session adjustments, let's say. Yeah. Also, very important thing to say, when they were doing all these tests, actual athletes did not have access to their data, only their coaches. So they were not aware whether they were doing good or bad, or if their nervous system was shattered or it was all good. They were just listening to the instruction that were given them by the coaches and by the team of doctors who were assisting the coaches with that. And it had a really, really great impact on the improvement. So how to actually use HRV for yourself and how to read the data correctly. in a sense of absolute values, makes no sense. You want to get the device, whatever the device is, certain time to learn to read you. So first 2-3 weeks of using any measurement device, you don't even have to look at it. It will calibrate as you go. And then basically if you look at your week, you want to have jumps up and down. You don't want to be always in great recovery. That means you could have pushed more and your training load is, let's say, in more active recovery zone. If you have only bottom values, that's not great either, because you are not giving your body time to recover and restore. What is really important to say, and then I'll get back to the main point, how your muscles are feeling. If you have sore legs or calves or arms or neck or whatever it is, it has very little to do with the nervous system state. You cannot really determine your nervous system without measuring it. There are certain ways, by tuning into your breath and following and trying to read it through how you react to certain situations and how your breath is reacting, because breath is a direct feedback for the state of the nervous system, but it's still way better to have it through certain data. The point is, it has nothing to do with your soreness. It's more the overall system fatigue. So just because you don't feel sore doesn't mean you are ready to train. And just because you feel sore doesn't mean you are not ready to train. Those are different metrics and different parameters in the body that have something to do, but the nervous system is a universe on its own. Now, the optimal chart for your HRV through the week would be up and downs. One day hard, other day you recover a little bit. The next day, it either has still a climbing tendency that you recover even better, or you go down again. So if it looks somewhat as a peaks and valleys, even today you peaking back to back, 3 day back to back, and then a valley, or you go down 1, 2, 3, and then you go up, that's completely fine. It just should not be flat, either at the top or at the bottom. Any peaks and valleys, you're doing good, and try to attune. Let's say you had 3 back-to-back days going just lower and lower and lower in your HRV. Maybe it's time for a little bit lighter day. If you have any questions, if you have any notes, ask in the comments or text me directly. See you next time.